It is epic show, recreating 9th century Saxon England. And in terms of production, to actually have scores of actors, stuntmen, extras, all in costume, it's a really big show. How are we going to recreate this world that doesn't exist anymore?
It does create certain problems for us because it is not the same as covering a later period of history where there are still some buildings existing and a much clearer sense of how they lived.
We were aware that there wasn't a world, when we set out to make The Last Kingdom, there wasn't anything standing. You can't go and use, cathedrals and everything, and anything, because it all predates any architecture that survives. So that became a daunting prospect, but what it's allowed us to do is to actually just invent everything.
We're creating a Saxon Viking world. As designers of drama, we can push the boundaries. So, yeah, we have a lot of scope, and sometimes we can have a bit of fun with it too.
I think Martin John has been incredibly ballsy in his ambition and a real problem solver. I love any production designer who can think outside the box and put certain things together to give you a scale to make you feel you haven't been to this place before and really create a world.
Because of the filming style, handheld, they basically could see 360 degrees, above, below, everything. On a normal film set, you have areas where the lights are kept or the lights are moved, but on these film sets, we created a total environment.
The amazing thing is you come out here and, it's all built. To go on set and just walk around that, it's just amazing. It's so helpful to the actors to be working in that kind of environment. We haven't got a lot of wobbly sets and stuff like that. It's strong, solid stuff. You can really believe it.
I've never worked on a set like this. They built Winchester. They literally did build a town. When you first got driven to that set, can't quite believe the amount of work that's gone into it.
It's just fantastic. The attention to detail is stunning, like every corner. If you turn the camera around right now, you would see every brick and everything is placed so perfectly.
You walk into these big rooms and you walk through these muddy streets and you think this is what it was like. You could probably live in our sets. That just blew my mind. I've never worked on anything of that scale.
That's another thing which we've done, which is very, very interesting. The whole world, you can move inside and outside. On a normal film set, you can't. You go through the door and you go to a different location, but here we've joined them. It was quite challenging, and you have to think about so much more. Normally you can just do 3/4 of a room and not bother with a ceiling. But in this game, we couldn't. So everything had to be thought about and considered.
The production on Last Kingdom is fabulous. When I saw my house, I was like, wow, I want to live here. You have a ground floor and a first floor, all the animals in the ground floor. And then on the top floor, you have the bedrooms where we sleep. Totally makes sense. A bit smelly, but still, I could live there.
All the structures that Martin's built in line with the world we were trying to sort of realise are huge, and this is just one of them. So we have various sets, and size and scale was always very important.
And when you look at some of the sets that we produced, it's all for real. It's amazing. When it's full of people and animals and madness and mud, it sort of works. It looks quite mental. It's not like anything you'd think, so it's great.
I think our location out in Hungary gives it a different flavour than the show might have had if we tried to shoot it in the UK.
We ended up going to Budapest, which allowed us a huge range of different looking landscapes. And given that none of us know what England looked like, it gave it a sense of being foreign. So you get a sense of this isn't somewhere we've seen before.
You get a sense of other. It sort of feels English but isn't quite English. And that is hugely important to creating the world of The Last Kingdom. So that asset's been fantastic.
Hungary's been really good for that because here we can construct amazing sets. The construction here is very good quality and we get a lot more bang for our buck, which is very good. And they're very quick too and very skilled. They've done a lot of movies, a lot of big productions out here.
The most amazing thing about Hungary, I've found, is the talent pool that's here. You can't find things to buy, but you can make things. So if I imagine something and I draw it, they find somebody to make it for me. We have great sculptors, great seamstresses and leather workers. They're fantastic. They do everything for us.
I must admit, the first time I saw Uhtred sets fire to the ships, I thought, we haven't got a ship, and we can't set fire to any ships we haven't got. So in actual fact, we have constructed a huge Viking ship, which is full size.
We did a lot of research from books and reference material on what the Viking boats looked like. And then we made drawings. It took about 4 weeks to do drawings of the actual boat. And then they built it in a studio. So it was amazing. You can see this 100-foot ship being built, painted, taken apart, because we can't transport it in one piece, it's too wide, put on a lorry, taken to our location, put into the water on decks, which are submerged in the water, and then finished off. The masts go in, the rigging goes in.
The terrible thing that Bernard writes about and we have to do is then build things to then burn them down, which is quite heartbreaking and quite expensive.
Oh, I don't mind. Easy come, easy go. It's part of the magic. If they want to set fire to it, as long as they do it good. And we've got a great special effects team. They're amazing here. They used to doing huge films, so it was nothing for them to set it on fire, stop it, set it on fire again. Yeah, it's great.
We have two worlds that are clashing. That's the entire story, is two worlds clashing. And those worlds need to be very clearly delineated for the audience. So as soon as you see a Viking, you know a Viking. As soon as you see a Saxon, you know it's a Saxon.
Ros is a really talented, creative costume designer, and she really responded to Nick Murphy's original idea. The Saxons were pale and pious and very kind of clean-cut. And the Vikings were sexy, lots of decoration, furs and armour, and really looking like strong warriors. But into that, we wanted to bring some colour.
In reality, the clothing of the Saxons and the Vikings would actually be very similar. So what was very important was to find a way of differentiating very clearly between the two. With the Vikings, I wanted to bring in particularly the colour of the sea, also introducing sort of mustards and burnt oranges. And the brief really was that the Saxons would be austere, they'd be in a sort of grey colour palette. A huge amount of the costumes had been made from scratch. The clothing couldn't be found anywhere. We couldn't go into costuming and say, oh, we'll have 200 of those and 200 of those. It wasn't there. So we set up a workroom here in Hungary. This began about 2 months before we started filming. We weren't talking about a few metres here and there. We were talking about 1,200 metres of this and 800 metres of that and 500 metres of something else. So it's been a gargantuan task.
The Danish Vikings were an astonishing bunch, and I wanted that flamboyance and the colour to shine from them.
I remember when I first went into the wardrobe truck and you see all these rock and roll costumes for the Vikings, with the big furs, and then you just look to Alfred's shelf and it's literally a very dull tunic.
I look a lot cooler and tougher than I normally do.
I'm sort of slightly upset because the Vikings look much cooler than the Saxons. Much cooler.
They're the rock stars, they're Lenny Kravitz. In fact, a shot of Lenny was one of our references to the Danes.
The Vikings were much sexier, flamboyant, bigger hair, tattoos, beards, big flowing locks, lots of braids. The Saxons very pious, neat, contained. Nick was very keen on a style for the women of braided hair underneath.
A beard, as I like to call it. Well, I think the women liked their hair quite practical and sort of get it out the way. And Aylesworth is described in Cornwell's books to be quite a plain, unattractive woman. So they've tried to do everything they can to make me look pretty gross.
The makeup stuff is amazing. They kind of glue my face and then chop up a wig, just poke little bits of wig. Although the haircut I have to take home with me. And I've invested in a lot of hats.
Yeah, me and the other Saxon actors feel a bit hard done by.
All the Vikings, they all look great. I mean, if we're staying together, we look like, a rock band from Finland.
We've got bowl cuts and boils, and they have tattoos and dreadlocks, and there's not one of those looks has lasted, and it's not bowl cuts.
Our mood board for the Vikings was very contemporary. The shaved sides and the long hair with the beards. If you walk through Soho today, you will see a lot of guys looking very like that. And I love that. I love that mix of old and new and making it work because that's exactly what we wanted.
Nick had a very clear idea of what he would like for Uhtred, about how he would look. The fur he wears is a boar's skin, and with a leather harness that's been made by Monica, the leather master here. And that's the main costume that you see Uhtred wearing almost all the time.
The costume itself gives me a lot as an actor to wear it. Sometimes we have to do a rehearsal before the day begins, and I have to go in there in my street clothes, and it never feels right. And then I come back in the armor, and it just works. Carrying that weight of the leather changes your whole body language, and it just makes you feel tough.
Alexander has to be able to pass as a Saxon and a Viking, and actually looks more Viking with the hair. We also wanted to make him look like he has just lived a life. We wanted to be able to add scars as we went along. So we put just little ones in various places, a couple on his body as well.
There are more and more scars being put on as time goes on, and I think that's quite nice, because people, when they watch the show, hopefully will remember where that scar came from.
You may well like that.
I do.
I thought you might.
On this show, everybody's dirty. I've got so much dirt on my nails when I get home. I really need to brush to get all the dirt out. And then 2 days later, you come in, and Kate thrives on putting it on me again.
This is dirt, it's not powder.
We'd take a box of dirt, all the different dirts, dry dirt, old dirt, crispy dirt, you name it, every kind of dirt. All of those things we would have with us. Brida, she's a tomboy, she's a rough and tough, she's been through the same awful experiences as young Uhtred, so Emily wanted something very low maintenance, absolutely no makeup whatsoever, and she was very good about that.
Brida's a Viking woman, so she also had to be a very practical costume.
I'm the only woman on set who's been wearing trousers. It was important that it's functional. She's not the kind of woman who thinks about the way she looks all the time. For her, it's more about being a good fighter, saying what she thinks, surviving. But when I discovered that it takes 20 minutes to take off the trousers, I stopped drinking that much water.
I have to say the art department have been absolutely outstanding on this, and I think we all come in sometimes just gobsmacked at what's been achieved.
Walking onto set is like, oh, we're stepping back in time.
We really feel that we're living in that world as an audience. I think they've each really brought that freshness, a fresh look.
You had to make things real, because you could tell the difference. Real hair extensions, real dye for tattoos. The fabrics you can use, they have to be rough woven, because people didn't have sophisticated means of making anything. It's a great creative sort of team, actually. Really good fun.
The biggest challenge has been to get a look without it looking like makeup. On the whole, there are no wigs. We do everything laid on, so when you see a beard, it's usually been laid on almost hair by hair.
This is a visual stunt, and you have to make it believable. And so they did such a great job. You cannot do this without getting into character. I mean, it's done.
All costume designers would be trying in film and television to make the clothes livable, that they don't feel they're wearing a costume, they're just living in these clothes.
When you've got the costume on, I don't know what happens, you're kind of like, yes, I could live here.
I don't feel that I watch characters, I feel like I watch people from back then.
Well, the way it looks, the costume, makeup, set design, and every piece of furniture, every candle, every scroll, they are there to feel like there was some kind of life going on. The background, it was always felt fresh.
It's just all becomes the grit you're not quite sure you're aware of seeing, but when you look at the screen, you just feel, okay, if I buy the world, I buy it. All of these things add up, these tiny little things, and they say God's in the detail, and he is. Odin's in the detail.